What if the difference between a truck that costs you a fortune in repairs and a truck that runs reliably for 300,000 miles was not the brand, not the engine, and not even how hard you work it, but a handful of habits that most owners never develop because nobody ever laid them out clearly? That is exactly what this video is. 13 practical, field-tested hacks that save real money on real trucks. Not internet tricks, not gimmicks, not things that sound clever but fall apart in actual use. These are the habits that keep repair bills small, extend the life of the most expensive components on your truck, and give you the kind of reliability that makes you trust your vehicle completely every time you leave the driveway. Some of these will cost you nothing. A few will cost you less than $20. All of them are worth more than that every single time you use them. Let's get straight into it. If you drive a pickup truck as a daily driver, a work truck, a tow vehicle, or all three at once, this list was built for you. Not for someone who puts 8,000 miles a year on a truck they baby on weekends. For someone who actually uses the truck the way a truck is meant to be used. Who understands that the cost of ownership matters as much as the capability, and who would rather spend 15 minutes doing something right today than spend $3,000 fixing it at a shop 6 months from now. Every hack on this list is grounded in how pickup truck systems actually work. The chemistry of fluids, the physics of load management, the mechanical realities of engines and transmissions and drivetrains that work hard for a living. Pay attention all the way through because the hacks escalate in impact, and the ones toward the end are the ones that protect your most expensive components.
Hack 1. Read your oil, rather than just changing it on schedule. Most truck owners change their oil on a fixed interval, every 5,000 miles, every 7,000 miles, whatever the sticker on the windshield says, without ever actually looking at what the oil is telling them. And that fixed interval habit, while better than nothing, misses one of the most valuable diagnostic tools your truck gives you for free every single time you check the dipstick. Here is the hack. Before your next oil change, pull the dipstick and look at the oil carefully. Not just the level, but the color, the consistency, and the smell. Fresh, full synthetic oil is amber to light brown and slightly translucent. Oil that has been working hard and is approaching the end of its useful life is dark brown to black and opaque. That is normal aging and tells you the change interval is appropriate. But oil that looks gray or milky, even slightly, indicates coolant contamination from a head gasket leak or a cracked coolant passage. Oil that smells strongly of raw fuel indicates a fuel system problem, causing fuel to bypass the rings and dilute the crankcase. Oil that is black and gritty after only 2,000 miles indicates severe combustion blow-by from worn rings or a ventilation system failure. None of those conditions show up as a warning light. All of them cause catastrophic engine damage if ignored. A head gasket replacement on a full-size pickup runs from $1,200 to over $3,000 depending on the engine. A short block replacement from fuel dilution damage runs significantly more. Reading your oil costs 30 seconds and catches those conditions before they destroy the engine. Make it a habit every time you check the level. Hack 2. Address rust on the frame. Before it addresses you, here is a hack that separates truck owners in Rust Belt states from everyone else, but it applies everywhere to some degree. Your truck's frame is a boxed or C-channel steel structure that carries every load, every tow, and every impact your truck experiences, and in any environment where road, salt, moisture, or high humidity is present. That frame is under continuous corrosive attack from the outside in. Most truck owners look at surface rust on the frame and decide it is cosmetic, just the natural aging of a working truck. Some of it is. But here is where it becomes expensive and dangerous. Box section frame rails trap moisture inside the channel, which means the interior surface of your frame can be corroding significantly faster than the exterior surface you can see. By the time visible rust pitting on the outside of the frame has progressed to the point where it looks serious, the interior wall of the frame rail may already have significant thickness reduction from rust that is completely invisible without drilling inspection holes or using a bore scope. Frame rust that compromises structural integrity affects towing safety, crash protection, and suspension geometry. And frame replacement on a full-size pickup is not a repair most people can afford. The hack is a combination of two cheap interventions applied before the rust becomes serious. First, a thorough annual cleaning of the frame underside, particularly the interior of any accessible box sections, with a pressure washer to remove salt and debris accumulation. Second, application of a penetrating rust inhibitor or cavity wax into the interior of box section frame rails through drain holes or drilled access points. Products specifically designed for frame cavity protection displace moisture, form a waxy protective film on bare metal, and self-heal when disturbed, providing ongoing corrosion resistance for 12 to 24 months per application. A full frame treatment costs between $40 and $100 in product and an afternoon of time. It is one of the highest value preventive maintenance investments you can make on any truck that operates in a corrosive environment. Hack 3. Cool your brakes between hard stops instead of riding them. This one is specifically about technique rather than maintenance, and it is a technique that most truck owners who tow or haul regularly have never been taught. When you are descending a grade with a load and you need to control your speed, the instinct is to apply steady, consistent brake pressure to keep the truck at a safe speed throughout the descent. That instinct feels correct and safe, but steady, continuous light brake pressure is actually one of the fastest ways to build rotor temperature to the point of brake fade, because continuous application prevents the rotor from shedding heat between applications, and the rotors on a loaded full-size pickup generate enormous thermal energy under sustained braking. The hack is interval braking, sometimes called the mountain braking technique. Instead of applying steady light pressure throughout a descent, apply firm, deliberate brake pressure to scrub your speed down below your target, then release the brakes completely and allow the rotors to cool in the airflow while engine braking holds your speed. Then repeat the cycle as needed. Each release interval allows the rotor surface temperature to drop measurably before the next application adds more heat. The net result is dramatically lower average rotor temperature throughout a long descent compared to continuous light application, which means your brake fluid stays well below its boiling point, your pad material stays in its designed operating temperature range, and your stopping power remains consistent from the top of the grade to the bottom. Brake rotor and pad replacement on a full-size pickup runs between $300 and $600 for a front axle set. Technique costs nothing and preserves that investment on every loaded descent you make. Hack 4. Use the right octane for your specific engine under load. Here is a hack that costs most truck owners money in one of two ways. Either they are buying premium fuel for an engine that does not require it, or they are running regular fuel in an engine that was designed to perform on mid-grade or premium under load. Let's sort out which situation applies to you. Modern full-size pickup truck engines equipped with direct injection and variable valve timing, which covers most current and recent generation V8 and turbocharged V6 engines, use knock sensors to detect detonation and retard ignition timing when lower octane fuel causes premature combustion. When you run regular 87 octane fuel in an engine that recommends 89 or 91 octane, the knock sensor detects the resulting detonation events and pulls timing back to prevent engine damage. The engine runs safely, but it runs with retarded timing, which means reduced power output and reduced thermal efficiency. You are burning more fuel to produce less work. On a turbocharged truck engine pulling a heavy load where cylinder pressures are significantly elevated, compared to light throttle driving, the timing retardation from running low-octane fuel under boost is even more pronounced. The hack is to run the octane your engine actually calls for under the conditions you are actually operating in. If your owner's manual says 87 octane is acceptable, but 89 is recommended, run 89 on towing trips and loaded hauls where the engine is working hard, and use 87 for light-duty daily driving where the difference in timing retardation is minimal. The fuel cost difference on a towing trip is small. The efficiency and reduced engine stress over thousands of towing miles is significant. Hack 5. Preset your tire pressures for the load before you leave. Most truck owners set their tire pressures once, usually to the number on the door jamb placard, and leave them there regardless of what the truck is carrying or towing. That single pressure fits all approach is one of the most widespread and quietly damaging habits in full-size truck ownership. Here is the specific problem. Your door jamb placard pressure is set for an unloaded vehicle. It is the pressure that gives you acceptable ride quality, fuel economy, and handling with passengers and minimal cargo. The moment you load the bed to near capacity, hook up a heavy trailer, or both, the vertical load on your rear tires increases dramatically, and tire pressure that was appropriate for an unloaded condition is now insufficient for the actual load being carried. An underinflated tire underload generates heat through excessive sidewall flexion, and heat is what destroys tires from the inside out in ways that are not visible until failure. But here is where most truck owners get the second half of this wrong. The solution is not simply to inflate all 4 tires to the maximum pressure listed on the tire sidewall. That maximum is a structural limit, not a recommended operating pressure, and running at maximum pressure creates its own problems, including reduced contact patch size, increased center tread wear, and a harsher ride that transmits more impact load through the suspension. The correct approach is to consult your truck's owner's manual or the tire manufacturer's load inflation table for your specific tire size and find the recommended pressure for your actual loaded weight. Then set your pressures before each significant loaded trip and reset them to the placard pressure when you return to unloaded operation. A quality digital tire gauge costs $12. Using it correctly on every loaded trip costs nothing additional and protects tires that cost over $1,000 to replace.
If this kind of practical, money-saving truck knowledge is exactly what you have been looking for, subscribe right now. We put out real truck content every single week that will pay for itself many times over in avoided repair bills.
Hack 6. Clean your mass. Airflow sensor before replacing it. Here is a hack that saves truck owners between $80 and $200 every single time it works, and it works more often than most people expect. The mass airflow sensor, commonly abbreviated as MAF or mass airflow sensor, measures the volume and density of air entering your engine and sends that data to the engine control module to calculate the correct fuel delivery. When the MAF sensor gets contaminated, which happens gradually from oil vapor from the positive crankcase ventilation system, dust particles that bypass the air filter, and general intake tract contamination, it starts reading air volume inaccurately. The engine control module receives incorrect airflow data and delivers a fuel mixture that is either too rich or too lean for actual conditions. The result is rough idle, hesitation under acceleration, poor fuel economy, or MPG, and often a check engine light with a lean or rich fuel trim fault code that points directly at the MAF sensor. Most truck owners and, honestly, many shops see that fault code and immediately order a replacement sensor. But here is what to try first. MAF Sensor Cleaner, a specific solvent spray sold at any auto parts store for about $8 to $12. Safely removes the contamination from the sensor's delicate hot wire or film elements without damaging them. Remove the sensor from the intake tract, spray the cleaner directly onto the sensing elements per the product instructions, allow it to dry completely, reinstall, and clear the fault codes. In a significant percentage of cases, the sensor reads correctly after cleaning and the fault does not return. Replacement MAF sensors for full-size pickup truck engines range from $80 to over $200 depending on the application. Trying the $12 cleaning solution before ordering the part is a no-brainer that every truck owner should know. Hack 7. Protect your diesel particulate filter with highway drives. This hack is specifically for diesel pickup truck owners. And if you own a diesel, this is one of the most important operational habits you can build. The diesel particulate filter, commonly abbreviated as DPF or diesel particulate filter, is an emissions device in your exhaust system that traps soot particles from diesel combustion and periodically burns them off through a process called active regeneration. During active regeneration, your truck's engine control module raises exhaust temperatures by injecting extra fuel into the combustion cycle to burn the accumulated soot in the filter. That process requires sustained highway speed operation. Typically at least 15 to 20 continuous minutes of driving at highway speeds to complete a full regeneration cycle. Here is where the problem develops for diesel truck owners who do a lot of short trip, low speed, or stop-and-go driving. If the truck never gets a sustained highway run long enough to complete a full regeneration cycle, soot accumulates. in the DPF faster than it can be burned off. The filter progressively loads up. The engine control module triggers more frequent regeneration attempts that also fail to complete. Eventually, the DPF becomes so loaded with soot that it restricts exhaust flow significantly, causing power loss, increased fuel consumption, and eventually a forced regeneration procedure that requires a shop visit with a scan tool. A DPF replacement on a diesel pickup costs between $1,500 and $4,000 depending on the truck. The hack is to give your diesel truck at least one sustained highway drive of 30 minutes or longer every week if the majority of your driving is short trip or urban. That highway run gives the engine the operating conditions it needs to complete a regeneration cycle naturally, keeps the DPF clean, and extends the service life of the filter dramatically compared to a truck that only ever sees short trips and idle time. Hack 8. Inspect and grease your drive shaft. U-joints on a schedule. Here is one that experienced truck mechanics see cause completely avoidable breakdowns on a regular basis. Failed universal joints, commonly called U-joints, on the drive shaft of a truck that had grease fittings on those joints, and an owner who never used them. On most full-size pickup trucks equipped with a conventional 2-piece or 3-piece drive shaft, the U-joints that connect the drive shaft segments and connect the shaft to the transmission output yoke and the differential pinion yoke are serviceable, meaning they have grease fittings, called Zerk fittings, that allow fresh grease to be injected into the joint bearing cups with a grease gun. The grease inside a U-joint bearing cup lubricates the needle bearings that allow the joint to articulate as the drive shaft rotates through the angle, changes caused by suspension movement and load variation, when that grease depletes from heat cycling and normal use, and when no fresh grease is added to replace it. The needle bearings run dry, generate heat, wear rapidly, and eventually seize. A seized U-joint either causes severe vibration that damages the drive shaft, transmission output shaft, and differential pinion, or it fails completely and drops the drive shaft onto the road at speed. Drive shaft replacement runs from $300 to over $800. Differential and transmission damage from a failed U-joint adds significantly to that number. A grease gun costs $20. U-joint greasing takes 5 minutes per joint with the truck on a lift or ramps. Do it every 15,000 miles on any truck with serviceable U-joints, and you will never have an unexpected drive shaft failure from a cause that was completely preventable. Hack 9. Check your lug nut torque after any wheel service. This one sounds almost too simple to be worth mentioning, and that is exactly why it costs truck owners money and occasionally causes accidents every year. Whenever your wheels have been removed and reinstalled, after a tire rotation, a brake job, a tire repair, a wheel bearing replacement, or any other service that requires pulling the wheels, the lug nuts need to be torqued to the manufacturer's specification with a calibrated torque wrench, not just run down with an impact gun and called done. Here is why that matters. When lug nuts are over-torqued with an impact gun, which is extremely common at quick-service tire shops and oil change facilities, the wheel studs stretch beyond their elastic limit. Stretched studs have reduced clamping force and are far more susceptible to fatigue fracture under the dynamic loading of normal driving. When lug nuts are under-torqued, the wheel is not fully clamped to the hub and can develop micro-movement with every rotation, which frets the mating surfaces, creates lateral wobble, and can progress to complete wheel separation at speed. Correct lug nut torque on most full-size pickup trucks falls between 100 and 140 foot-pounds, depending on the specific application. The hack is to invest in a torque wrench, a quality click-type torque wrench capable of the appropriate range costs between $30 and $60, and use it to verify lug nut torque yourself within the first 50 miles after any wheel service. That 50-mile recheck also accounts for the initial seating of the wheel against the hub surface, which can allow a small amount of torque relaxation on freshly installed wheels. Wheel separation at highway speed is one of the most dangerous events that can happen to a truck. A $30 torque wrench prevents it entirely. Hack 10. Treat your fuel system before winter storage. If your truck sits for any extended period, whether that is a seasonal work truck that goes into storage over winter, a recreational truck that parks for months between use, or simply a vehicle that sits idle for more than 60 days, untreated fuel left in the tank and fuel system is quietly causing damage that will cost you money at the next startup. Here is the chemistry of what happens. Modern gasoline, particularly ethanol blended fuel, which is nearly universal in the United States, begins to oxidize and degrade within 30 to 60 days of being pumped. Oxidized fuel forms gum and varnish deposits that coat fuel injector tips, fuel rail passages, and the interior of the fuel pump. Ethanol in the fuel also absorbs atmospheric moisture during storage, which causes phase separation, the ethanol and water mixture separating from the gasoline and settling to the bottom of the tank as a corrosive, water-rich layer that the fuel pump then draws from first on the next startup. The result of starting a truck that has sat on untreated, phase-separated fuel is varnished injectors that deliver poor spray patterns, a fuel pump that has been running in a corrosive water-ethanol mixture, and combustion quality that is poor enough to cause rough starting and potential catalytic converter damage from incomplete combustion. Fuel injector cleaning runs from $100 to over $300 at a shop. Fuel pump replacement runs $400 to $800. A fuel stabilizer treatment added to a full tank of fresh fuel before any storage period longer than 30 days costs about $10 and prevents all of those outcomes by stabilizing the fuel chemistry and preventing ethanol phase separation throughout the storage period. Hack 11. Monitor and maintain your truck's accessory belt system. Here is a failure that strands truck owners with zero warning and consistently gets overlooked until it happens. The Serpentine belt, the single continuous belt that drives your alternator, power steering pump, air conditioning compressor, and water pump on most modern pickup truck engines, is a rubber component that degrades from heat cycling, oil contamination, and simple age. On most full-size pickup trucks, the Serpentine belt service interval falls somewhere between 60,000 and 100,000 miles. But the interval is almost always listed as a mileage figure only, without accounting for age in years. A belt that has seen 5 years of heat cycling in an engine bay, regardless of mileage, has experienced significant rubber compound degradation that reduces its flexibility and crack resistance. Most Serpentine belt failures happen without any dramatic warning. The belt does not squeal loudly for weeks before it breaks. It develops small transverse cracks in the rib valleys that are only visible if you actually look at the belt, and then one day under load, it lets go completely. When a Serpentine belt fails on a modern truck, everything it drives stops simultaneously. Your alternator stops charging the battery. Your water pump stops circulating coolant. On trucks without electric power steering, your steering assist disappears. You have minutes before the engine overheats and potentially hours before you can get a tow, depending on where you are. The hack is inspection. Physically examine your Serpentine belt every 15,000 miles. Look at the ribbed surface for cracking, glazing, or fraying, and look at the flat back surface for cracking or wear. If the belt shows any visible cracking in the rib valleys or has more than 60,000 miles and 5 years of service, replace it proactively. A Serpentine belt costs between $25 and $60 in parts. A tow and emergency roadside replacement costs several times that. And if the engine overheated before you got it stopped, the repair bill grows significantly beyond the belt itself. Hack 12. Use fuel injector cleaner. Strategically, not constantly. There is a widespread habit among conscientious truck owners of adding a bottle of fuel injector cleaner to every single fill-up as a preventive measure. And while the intention is good, the execution is actually counterproductive and wastes money. Here is the reality of how fuel injector cleaners work. The active cleaning agents in fuel system additives, primarily polyethylamine or PEA, compounds in the better quality products, work by dissolving the carbon and varnish deposits that accumulate on injector tips and intake valves over time. They are effective at doing that job when used at the correct concentration. When you add a bottle of injector cleaner to every fill-up, you are diluting the product far below its effective working concentration with every tank of fuel, which means the cleaner never reaches the concentration needed to actually dissolve accumulated deposits. You are spending money on a product that is too diluted to perform its intended function. The hack is to use a high-quality PEA-based injector cleaner at full bottle concentration in a near-empty tank, so the product is as concentrated as possible in the fuel, every 10,000 to 15,000 miles rather than every fill-up. At that interval and concentration, the cleaner actually reaches the threshold needed to dissolve injector deposits effectively. A quality PEA-based cleaner used this way costs about $10 to $15 per treatment and produces measurable results in injector spray, pattern quality, and fuel economy. Used at every fill-up in diluted form, it produces almost no measurable benefit and costs you the same money spread across more purchases. Hack 13. Build a truck-specific emergency kit that covers your most likely failures. This is the peak hack, not because it prevents mechanical failures, but because it turns the failures that do happen, despite your best maintenance habits, from catastrophic, expensive, day-ruining events into manageable inconveniences that you resolve yourself in 30 minutes on the side of the road. Most truck owners carry a generic emergency kit, jumper cables, a flashlight, maybe a reflective triangle that was designed for a passenger car and does not account for the specific failure modes of a full-size pickup truck doing real work. Here is what a truck-specific kit actually looks like and why each item is in it. A quality set of heavy-duty jumper cables, not the thin 6 or 8 gauge cables sold in gas stations, because a full-size truck battery requires significantly more current to jump-start than a passenger car battery, and undersized cables overheat and fail during the jump attempt. A can of tire inflator and sealant rated for truck tire sizes, not the passenger car cans, because a slow leak from a nail or screw is the single most common roadside failure on any vehicle, and being able to re-inflate and seal the tire yourself eliminates the tow entirely in most cases. A spare serpentine belt for your specific engine, because, as we covered, belt failures happen without warning, and a belt that costs $30 in a parts store costs 3 times that from a roadside service provider. A quart of the correct engine oil, a quart of the correct automatic transmission fluid, and a gallon of the correct coolant for your truck, because fluid loss from a minor leak is the second most common cause of overheating and drivetrain damage on the road, and having the correct fluid to top off immediately eliminates the damage that driving low on any of those fluids causes. A basic socket set with the sizes that cover your truck's most common access points, battery terminals, serpentine belt tensioner, and air filter housing, because the ability to do a basic repair yourself in 30 minutes eliminates a 2-hour wait for roadside assistance and a service call charge that starts at $80 and climbs from there. The total cost of assembling this truck-specific kit is between $60 and $120. The cost of a single tow from a remote location where you broke down without it starts at $150 and goes up steeply with distance. Build the kit once, keep it in the truck, and the next time something happens on the road, and eventually something will, you are the truck owner who handles it instead of the one waiting on the shoulder for someone else to come fix it.
13 hacks. All of them real, all of them grounded in how pickup trucks actually work, and every single one of them worth more than the time it takes to implement. Read your oil instead of just changing it. Protect your frame from rust before it becomes structural. Use interval braking on loaded descents instead of riding the brakes. Run the right octane for your engine under actual load. Set your tire pressures for your actual loaded weight. Clean your MAF sensor before replacing it. Give your diesel regular highway runs to keep the DPF healthy. Grease your U-joints on a schedule. Verify your lug nut torque after every wheel service. Treat your fuel before any extended storage. Inspect your serpentine belt before it leaves you stranded. Use injector cleaner at the right interval and concentration to actually work. And build a truck-specific emergency kit that covers your actual failure modes. None of these hacks are complicated. None of them require professional tools or mechanical expertise beyond basic owner-level knowledge. They just require knowing what matters and building the discipline to act on it consistently, which is exactly what separates truck owners who spend their money on capability from truck owners who spend it on avoidable repairs. Here is the question for the comments. Which one of these 13 are you implementing this week? And which one did you already have dialed in? Drop it below. And if this video saved you money or taught you something you needed to know, subscribe so you do not miss a single video we put out. Real truck knowledge, every week, no filler, no gimmicks. See you in the next one.